Now we have the audit process and each stage. We're going to walk through this a little bit. And first off, we have engagement acceptance. This is where we think about ethics and independence. So this ties back to, and so many of these lessons are so interconnected, right? Because here's where we're going to think about a lot of what we covered in the ethics section and independence. Can we actually accept the engagement? The terms of the engagement, we need to communicate with the predecessor auditor. We need to make sure that before we accept an engagement, we have access to everyone that we need to communicate with. Does the client say we can talk to their employees? Can we talk to a predecessor auditor, meaning there was an auditor that audited the client last year? This is our first year, or second year, whatever. Whatever it could be, it doesn't matter. But can we talk to any parties we need to communicate with in order to get audit evidence? That's pretty important, because if the client says, hey, you can't talk to any of our employees, well, that's a massive red flag. Next, once it's accepted and we're actually we're in business, right? We've got it going. Understanding the client. Well, we need to understand the business, and if we don't understand some aspects, well, that's where we might bring in a specialist, and we do have a lesson on that as well to build upon that. We're going to gain industry knowledge, business knowledge. Let's say you've only done financial services clients. Now you're doing a manufacturing client. You need to understand how a factory works, because all you've done is audit derivatives and financial markets and everything in that nature. So in this case, you're going to tour the facility, get to know them a little bit. We are going to inquire about possible issues. We're going to try to talk to other auditors maybe who have worked in the manufacturing industry or who have audited manufacturing clients and say, what are some common issues that you see? Because we're going to take those into account as well. We're going to document the nature of the entity, relevant factors, everything there. Again, doesn't hurt to document this, and we will talk about documentation much more in the documentation lesson. What's our strategy? Well, our preliminary assessment of materiality, preliminary assessment of risk, right? We want to make sure that we have enough people to staff the audit. If we're a big firm, we probably have enough people, but let's make sure that they have availability and they're not booked on other clients, right? That's pretty important as well. Materiality, we determine that, and we'll go over that much more within the materiality lesson, but essentially the gist of it is that's on us. The client's not supposed to know what the materiality threshold is. We determine as auditors independently what we believe the materiality threshold is, because the client shouldn't be involved. That is something that is subjective, and anything that's subjective, the client should not be involved in. Similarly, using the work of others, we'll talk about that. And when you do possibly work with the internal audit function of a client, well, they can help out. However, they're not going to be able to help out with anything that requires subjective thought, subjective work. That is solely on us. But if it's objective things, like simply, getting a bunch of documents together, I mean, you could trust the internal auditor to do that. That's pretty objective. Just accumulate a bunch of documents for use and prepping a work paper that we will then go and review. And I'm kind of just like going over this, right? All of this is just, you don't need to memorize every single thing here. I'm just kind of like painting a picture of the process, right? Maybe we do need to bring in that specialist because we don't understand the industry. Consider the work of internal auditor, because a client does have an internal audit function. If they're a large enough company, now those internal auditors do their best, but there's a reason we have external auditors. There's a reason this whole exam exists. There's a reason this massive, billion-dollar industry of CPA firms exists for auditing, right? We want to make sure that an external independent party can come in and verify everything. Lastly, with the planning, we've just got the audit plan, risk assessment. We want that written plan, test of controls, procedures, whatever we're going to be doing. We want to document that. We want to make sure it's understood what we're going to be coming in and doing. Now, once we execute the audit, perform procedures and obtain evidence, test of controls, substantive testing. We'll very much go into detail here much later in our other lessons. We want conclusions based on those testings, and this is getting to the end of it. We want to make sure we have all of our representations properly displayed. We want to make sure we have all the evidence for an opinion, and if we don't, go back and do some more testing. And then lastly, we are going to communicate with governance, those charged with governance, say, here's your clean opinion. It's been a pleasure. See you next year, right? That is the overall process, trying to make sure you understand it, and hopefully I built up the lessons in a way that does mirror this process. So I think this exam, as I mentioned prior, is built out in a way where it's as if you're doing the audit yourself, right? We're starting out with ethics and independence, accepting the engagement, then understanding the client, planning out everything, then doing the testing, forming the conclusions, giving them their deliverable. Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.